So Michael Wolff went on CNN to talk to Brian Stelter and made him look like an absolute fool. Take a look at this video.
And that's what Trump does. He has spent most of his administration seeing people on television and immediately calling them.
But maybe that's how it works sometimes,
I don't want you to think.
Is that how it works? That's how you get access?
But I don't want you to think that what I said at that point was in any way inauthentic. I think the media has done a terrible job on this. I think you yourself, while you're a nice guy, you're full of sanctimony. You become part of one of the parts of the problem of the media. You come on here and you have a monopoly on truth. You know exactly how things are supposed to be done. You are one of the reasons people can't stand the media. I'm sorry.
You're cracking me up.
It's your fault.
So what should I do differently, Michael?
Don't talk so much. Listen more. People have genuine problems with the media. The media doesn't get the story right. The media exists in its own bubble.
That's true. I agree.
You got to stop. I mean, that last segment that I just had to listen to of all of the people saying the same old stuff. Also, you're incredibly repetitive. It's week after week. I mean, you're the flip side of Donald Trump. Fake news, and you say virtuous news.
We just figure out what is real.
I mean,
I'm listening.
Well, figuring out what is real is not so easy, and most people don't want to turn to Brian Stelter to tell us what's real. I'm sorry.
Well, then why'd you bother coming on CNN a few times this week?
I'm a book salesman.
Michael, I love talking to you. I'm grateful you came on. And I guess let's do it again in 4 years. Thanks.
Now, in this video, we're going to be going pretty hard on Brian, but I just want to point out that both of those two guys, Brian and Michael, are what two extremely awkward and odd individuals. But anyway, so as Michael goes on there to basically hand Brian his ass, Brian just kind of sits there and laughs awkwardly. And I think that shows, above all, how not real of a person he is. So you're saying as someone sits there and thoroughly berates you and they're correct, you just sit there and laugh awkwardly and take it? I don't know. Was he embarrassed? Was he taken aback by it? Did he not really care? Was he looking down on him, with contempt? I'm very confused to his response there, and we'll get into it, or his lack of response, and we'll get into that more as this video goes on. But let's just start at the beginning. So Michael flat out says there that you guys are one of the reasons that people can't stand media, and he specifically calls out Brian. He says it's your fault. Wow. To his face, he blatantly called him out, and he said that you're too sanctimonious, and he is. Brian Stelter is easily the most, if not one of the most sanctimonious people on television as it pertains to the Democrats. Now, we know that Fox, One American News Network, Newsmax, they're incredibly sanctimonious to the Republicans, but we're not talking about them right now. We're talking about CNN, Brian Stelter, and their, undoubted fellowship to the Democrats. And CNN's really, they have this fellowship to the establishment. But as Brian Stelter, he's a huge Democratic sycophant. And I actually made a video about this not too long ago about him being incredibly sanctimonious to Jen Psaki. If you go back and you watch the video that I made on it, I played a video where he was interviewing Jen Psaki, and he's talking to the White House press secretary. He has a chance to ask her anything that he wants about why the $15 minimum wage failed, why Joe Biden abandoned the public option, what's the deal with student debt. And the question that he chose to ask her was, how can I do my job better? What does the media get wrong? That's what he asked her. He asked her those questions. Go back and watch that video. That's what he had to ask the White House press secretary when he got a few minutes of her time. And that's what Michael Wolff is alluding to there. He says that if Donald Trump is fake news, then you guys are virtuous news. And he's exactly right. And Brian asked him, well, what can we do better? He says, don't talk, listen. You know, you guys are out of touch. You guys live in your own bubble. And it is true. Corporate media in general, not just CNN, but corporate media in general reside in their own bubble. They are so unaware of the actual problems, the existing ailments that people in this country go through. They truly don't understand it. You know, when it comes to stimulus talks, what they want and what the people want, they're on two opposite ends of the spectrum. When it comes to the healthcare debate, they'll propagandize and vilify Medicare for all day long, while a majority of the American people support Medicare for all. Well, why is that? It's because that our system, our healthcare system, provides the best care to the people that have the most money. And Brian Stelter is a wealthy CNN pundit, so he makes pretty good money, so he can afford the best care. But the majority of the American people cannot, which is why they support universal health care, which is why they support Medicare for all. A person like Brian Stelter can't understand it, which furthermore alludes to the division between corporate media and the population as a whole, working people, the labor movement. That it's just they're just two separate entities that don't understand each other. And corporate media, they don't even try to understand the people. And that's very indicative when you watch the bullshit that they put on your TV screen every day for hours on end, which is why I don't watch any of it. Let's continue. He also says that it's incredibly repetitive. Now, on the repetitive thing, I'm kind of iffy on the repetitive thing because some things you have to talk about a lot. Like, we still don't have marijuana is still illegal in this country at the federal level. I mean, until that gets legalized, we're going to have to keep talking about it. Until we get a universal healthcare system, we're going to have to keep talking about the fact that we don't have a universal healthcare system. Until the minimum wage is a living wage, we're going to have to keep discussing the fact that the minimum wage isn't a living wage. Until we stop bombing countries left and right and committing atrocities across the world, we're going to have to keep talking about the fact that we're continuing to do that. So the repetitive thing, kind of knocked that off. But he says that at the end, I love this. He asked Michael Wolff, why did you come on CNN? And his response is, and this is incredibly honest, I mean, you can't really fault him for it. He says, oh, I'm a book salesman. I got to make my money, man. I got to sell my books. Or there you go. It's all about the money with him. And of course, it's most likely all about the money with Brian as well. And Brian so awkwardly there at the end, just laughing and says, I love talking to you, man. Maybe we can do it again in 4 years. A guy just thoroughly handed you your ass on national television. And that's all you have to say. And you didn't bother to refute any of his points because you know all of his points were true. And the fact of the matter is, he's going to take all those points and they're going to go in one ear and out of the other. And he's going to continue to do the completely horrific job that he does and that all of corporate and mainstream media do when they get on those platforms and speak. He's going to continue to talk about the same old jargon, the same old talking points, catering to the establishment, catering to the Democrats, and he's not going to change his ways whatsoever. A guy like Brian will never change his ways. He'll forever be the sycophant, fanatical fan of the Democrats that he's always been, and he won't change at all. But I must say, this was incredibly refreshing, and it was quite hilarious, to be honest with you, to see him get berated in this fashion, and also to see him seemingly not be able to do anything about it.